Hello, everybody. This is the Voltron Season 8 review. Nerdblaze did a pre-season review before this, and now that we said our theories and all that fun stuff, and now that we've had time to watch it all, we're back to talk about how wrong we were, talk about all the cool stuff that happened in the season, the stuff we liked, the stuff we didn't like, and whether we thought this season was successful or not. I'm Jacoby, a.k.a. Kobe from Nerdblaze, joined as ever. I guess I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. I won't speak for you guys. It's 2018. Someone go first. Free for all, go.
I'm Jeff. You know, Kobe, I've been introducing you all the time. You don't have the courtesy to introduce me. You don't have any courtesy to say welcome to the show, Jeff. What is this?
I felt like I would have been taken. I had a moment of hesitation. I had a flash of guilt of just like, oh, I shouldn't speak for him here, but I will. Okay. Welcome to the show. This is my partner, Jeff. Jeff, say hello. Ooh, that could have been.
Hi, I'm Kobe's partner.
This is
Keep going.
totally off the rails in minute 5. Also,
not even minute 5. It's minute 1.
minute 105.
Just like Voltron Season 8.
Ooh, spoilers.
Relevant spoilers.
Yeah, sure.
The spoiler of Season 8.
You haven't even introduced the 2 other people. There's still 2 other people left to introduce.
Sorry, okay. The other one who hails from Nerdblaze is our very own Tori. Tori, say hello.
Hi, I'm the very own Tori.
It's going great so far. This is why I don't do the introductions.
You're doing great.
And then finally, our special guest, who hails from the land of anime podcasting himself, who has his own channel called Anime Dumpster Dive, is our good friend Jake. Jake, say hello.
Hello.
You gotta have a better hello. You had the best intro.
Apparently, I hail from Anime Dumpster Dive.
Hail and well met.
Hail and well met. What do you do over there at Anime Dumpster Dive?
We go in depth on an anime that's been been panned as like bad, and we watch it from start to finish so that you don't have to, and then we tell you if it is bad or not. And most of the time it is. So will you watch Voltron Season 8 with us? For us? I ruined my joke because I said with us instead of for us. Damn it. Already did.
Good show.
Or is it?
Or is it?
Oh,
I guess we'll
spoilers.
find out. So I guess the first, let's just talk in general terms, in like a non-spoiler free terms of it. Just I want to hear you guys' general thoughts of the season, because that will shape a lot about how this discussion goes. So Jeff, what are your general thoughts about Season 8?
My general thoughts of this season are that it did not live up to my expectations. I really wanted more from the season. I wanted to feel very satisfied with the ending of this show. Instead, I was left with a lukewarm feeling, just sort of like a meh, you know? It wasn't terrible, but it was not the best send-off, I think, to what I consider to be a good show. And for that, I'm disappointed.
All right. Jake?
I agree with Jeff on the sense that it really didn't send the show off on a good note. It kind of just fizzled out would be the way that I would say it. Overall, for me, I believe that there was a lot of good sprinkled throughout the season, but that's all it was just a little dash of good every now and then in a very bland season.
All right. Tori?
So for me, this final season, it was all right, more leaning towards not great. It made me question at the very end, was the show even good all along?
Ouch.
Was it? Did we just go along for the ride for this whole time? That's exactly what my feelings are after this.
Yeah, I wish I could disagree with you guys, but I really don't. There was, I think, a lot of that this season was that did wrong. That it was kind of like a misstep, and like in the structure was weird. They focused on some things that I don't think they should have been focused on, and didn't leave enough time for other things. But let's get into it then for a little bit here, because I think the very first episode of season 8's launch date set the stage for what was really it was a weird way to start off the season.
Yes.
Because what it did is absolutely just completely double down on Allura and Lance. What's their ship name?
Allura. It's Allura with an L.
Laura?
Allura. Well, the name is about as stupid as the relationship itself. We kind of discussed this on our preseason review about how we weren't really fond of the Lance and Allura romance. And then the show listened to us and said, hey, you know what everybody loves is this romance in the ship. And the first episode was almost like completely focused on building this ship out. So, did it work, guys?
No,
boo.
so cringy the whole time. Ugh.
Well, I'm not a big fan of that ship. I think it's so awkward, especially since like there is no build up to like Allura liking Lance like at all.
Yeah.
It kind of goes from her like being like annoyed with his like flirting to then just instantly returning it. Returning the feeling of love. And so I thought it was really weird in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
especially to devote a whole episode like to establishing it, just like it's not what I wanted to watch Voltron for.
Yeah, and this should have been an episode about like the final send-off of the team of Voltron. Like they spent all of last season trying to get to Earth and ultimately saving Earth, and now like within, I don't know what the time span is between the last episode and this one was, but suddenly they have to leave again. And I feel like this should have been an episode about everyone, but suddenly it was an episode about everyone trying to get Allura to happen.
Gross.
And I just think that was just a huge misstep. I mean, I feel like you guys already agree there wasn't really much chemistry there to begin with, and for them to just kind of, like you said, Kobe, double down on this terrible ship, and you know, I don't think we're alone in this. I personally haven't really followed like Voltron, what the I guess general fan base thinks about the show. But I jumped onto the subreddit kind of like after the show just to see what everyone else's thoughts were on there, and apparently there was throughout the show's history, the fan base has kind of been sort of in turmoil about the shipping of the show in general, actually. And I think a lot of people were not cool with this relationship, and there could have been, you know, probably a lot more better options out there. I mean, there was really a lack of chemistry between a lot of characters, I think. So choosing any romance at all, I think would have been weird. They should have just kept them all, I guess, platonic.
They had one moment in that episode that I thought would save it. It's at the end when Allura, I think they were out in the field, and she like says something along the lines, you know, I lost everything, you know, I've never really felt like I belonged, but you know, being with Voltron, being with you guys have really made me realize that this is my family now. This is what, you know, gives me purpose. This is where I want to be. And I was like, oh, that's good. That's her telling her that, you know, all of you guys are important to her and mean a lot to her. Basically kind of like doing
friends.
Yeah, doing the friend zone to Lance. And I was like, oh,
Let
good.
him down nicely.
Yeah, this is going to end this relationship. Get rid of it. Season 1. Don't even bring it up again. A nice little send-off. And then they kiss. And I'm like, ugh.
As what I said while we were watching this together, I said, like, I thought about it, like, the only reason they leaned so hard into the Allura and Lance romance into this one is because Lance was gonna fucking die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was my only justification for it. Jake, what did you think?
I actually, again, I really just don't like this pairing at all, because, again, it's just so awkward, and I felt like Keith had a better, like, Allura kind of build, and that's barely any to begin with. And it almost feels like they added the Lance Allura relationship after they finished like the season. Like it just feels that way, because even at the final episode, to just jump ahead for a sec, they bring up that idea of like Voltron's a family, like the Paladins are a family. And so like it's kind of weird that that's how like Allura is like, oh well, I see you guys as my family, and you're that weird cousin I have feelings for, Lance. It's like, what the fuck is happening? Like that was such a weird such a weird turn that her like monologue went through or something. It was just weird.
I just think that Lance had nothing going for him, and that was what they gave him. This relationship that was just, ugh.
With Lance, really quick, this is something, like, because Tori, I know that you said in our pre-discussion that you didn't think Lance grew at all.
Yes.
If you watch episode 1 of Voltron and then the first episode of season 8, Lance is a completely different character. He's talking to Keith about his problems. He's talking to, like, even his cringy-ass speech about his feelings to Allura is 180 from how he acted in the first episode. Like, I feel like as much as I hate this episode, it does show Lance's growth. Because, like, you really feel him and Keith's, like, friendship in this one.
I guess so. I could see that. Yeah, that was probably the best part of that episode, is when him and Keith were talking, and, you know, they've come a long way from their rivalry to now being a cohesive team. So that was a special moment, and I think
Keith and Lance had way more chemistry in that scene than Allura and Lance ever did.
And I definitely think all of the characters have grown in their own way. I just don't think Lance, like, what is he? What, like, he's always asked the question, what is he in the group? I don't know what he's in the group. Apparently he was a romance in the group, and my thoughts were, because when we were watching this, you know, you did say, Kobe, that, you know, Lance is gonna die if they do this. Lance is gonna die, and I was like,
I said that so many times.
And I was like, I don't know. I think Allura is gonna die. So that was my theory at the beginning. They could, because they can't. I was like, they cannot end with this relationship growing and they having babies. Like, they can't
happily ever after.
No.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the reason they went with this romance, or any romance at all, really, is to kind of impart a feeling of. Are we in spoilers territory right now? Can I just?
I mean, if you haven't seen the first episode.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways.
So what I think you should do is when we talk about each episode, you talk about generalities don't talk about what happened later on in the episodes that we haven't talked about yet. Just generalize your thoughts.
We'll get there. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So then you're not spoiling if people are listening to this episode by episode.
Okay. So I think really the reason they added this relationship. Okay, well then I can't really say it then. Fuck it. I'm gonna wait till the end.
Okay, just share your thoughts of
I do want to say about this relationship.
Well, hold on. Okay, you know what? You can cut this out, Kobe. Let's talk about this. Are we really gonna save like shit from later on now? Like,
who's no. That's just
who's gonna listen to this that hasn't seen every single episode?
I guess it's true. Then I guess you.
All right,
should...
we're talking spoilers.
Okay.
All right.
We're talking spoilers then. Okay, then you can add that.
All right,
you could talk to your
Tori.
I'm
all
just
right,
saying.
all right. So I was gonna say, okay, hold on. So I think the reason that they added this relationship into the show was to impart a feeling of loss at the end of the show, because Allura dies at the end of the show, and I think maybe the writers were like, well, I mean, if Allura dies, you know, like, is that enough? I feel like there should be more sadness. What if Allura dies and also she's in a relationship with someone? Then it'll feel like, ooh, what a blow, you know? It'll feel like, oh, poor Lance losing the love of his life. I mean, I'm just trying to think of reasons why they would do this. I think those are kind of misguided reasons. I don't agree with the way they implemented it, but I think that's why they went with this choice in the end.
Jake, you were trying to say something too. What were you going to say?
Are we still going through episode by episode real quick?
Oh, we're going to. Okay. But if you want to say something about it, or
there's something I want to say, and I think when we get to that episode, I'll definitely go off. But I feel like this whole relationship cheapened Lance's character.
Yeah.
Because, I have 100% always been on the side of I hate a character whose main purpose is to be the love interest of another character, and for a lot of times, that's a random girl in a lot of series. I can't think of any right now, but it's like, oh, she exists to be the love interest of the main character. And I guess a slight example would be kind of like Sakura from Naruto. But here, it's like they took all of Lance's character growth, his development, his idea of being the right-hand man, the person that's supposed to keep Voltron on the straight and narrow, and they turned him into Allura's boyfriend. Yeah. And I hated that. It was he didn't regress like a lot of like I thought he was going to in this season, but he just kind of ceased to be his own character and became a prop for Allura, and I was just like, oh, that's annoying.
Mm-hmm. And they also weakened his ending story. Like,
yep.
It didn't give him a purpose now that his love interest was gone. Like, oh, he's just gonna be mourning her for the rest of the life. That's
yeah,
that's
that was
not
a
good.
weird cap to what we've known about Lance for like these past 65 episodes or so. All right, if moving a little bit, unless anything else you want to say about Allura and Lance. We talked a lot about Allura and Lance, about how much we hate it.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to pivot a little bit about this first episode, because it's something that was prevalent throughout the whole season. It's like really a sense of nostalgia from the first episode, because the first episode started with them watching old Voltron. And then that kind of sense of calling back the past and bringing back the old characters and things like, hey, remember these guys, was really popular throughout like all these 13 episodes. I wonder if that sort of feeling worked for you guys or if it didn't work.
I'm generally okay with homage. I mean, I don't think it was too intrusive. Like, as someone who didn't watch the original Voltron show, I could kind of just, see it for a general vague reference for what it is and just move on. Like, it didn't seem like it hampered anything or decreased my liking of the episode any more than I already did from other aspects. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't mind it.
And you're talking about even like the callbacks from the previous seasons, right? People that they brought into, right?
Yeah, that's that sort of idea of calling back on its history. Do you think they did that effectively, or do you think, or not?
I mean, I just don't think we care much about really anybody else. So when they brought him back, we're like, oh, look, it's Balmera chick.
Shay. I actually was happy.
I know her name is Shay.
I was happy.
I was implying that we don't really know or care about these characters. So when they bring them back, we're like, oh, okay.
I'd say for me, like I said, throughout this entire season, there was things that worked and things that didn't, and it that could apply definitely to the callbacks to the season, like to the previous seasons, because I thought things worked like pretty funny, like bringing back that one like super shady guy that Karan bought the disc from.
Yeah,
and like I thought it was funny to see him again. But then it doesn't work like a few episodes later when all of a sudden the warden from that one prison is in an arm wrestling contest. And so
it's like, you changed my life.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm all a big fan of callbacks, but some of them in the season worked to be fun, worked and hit a comedic reaction for me, while other ones were kind of just like, oh, that's weird. That's a weird one to try and bring back.
Yeah.
I did like Hunk talking about the TV series, though. Because
yes,
I did like that part where he goes, they made a page like this, and Allura, well, she's different because Allura in the original series is white. So.
I like how they say Keith. Keith is much friendlier, but
yeah.
Other than that is spot on. All right, so I want to move on to episode 2 a little bit here, because episode 2 is, I guess, Haggar's episode, and everything about that is reveals her whole history through a series of flashbacks. And I gotta say, I thought it was too much in a short amount of time. I think they flash back to things that we didn't necessarily need to see, and it muddled her ultimate motivation for the season. So I thought the second episode was really overstuffed. But did the flashback sequences have any effect on you guys? Like, did it work?
It was basically an exposition dump, and I think exposition dumps rarely work at all, and it didn't work in this instance. So I think they really struggled to find the time to properly establish Hanerva as the actual, the main villain of this last season. They didn't spend enough time in the prior seasons for there to be this build up to, oh, now she's the new big bad that we have to beat, And for them to just kind of cram all of that motivation and all that reasoning for why she's the new bad guy into one episode was, I think, not a particularly good move. Because, comparing her to the previous two villains, Zarkon and Lotor, Zarkon, kind of a typical bad guy overlord, but still, there was a build up to him, and there was a build up to that final fight, and I was pretty hyped when they, fought him that last time. And then with Lotor, we got a lot of time to see who he was as a person, what his motivations were, and how he, treated his subordinates and his comrades, and how he interacted with Voltron. There was a lot of back and forth banter. And so we got to see him a lot as a character, and with his final fight, there was a lot of emotion packed into that. But with Minerva, no, not enough time spent developing her. This whole season, all we knew about her was she was the evil witch, and that was it. And now suddenly we have to, she's the bad guy, and she's to me, she felt more kind of like a villain of the week as opposed to big bad villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna mention that they brought this on too late. Like, if we would have gotten to know Haggar as Minerva and as, more about her relationship with how she became to be this person, this big bad witch, a long time ago, at least we would have more time to develop this episode into something more, like, current or realistic, or something that we can prepare to be like, oh man, this is going to be a good fight at the end, because they're basically setting up the reason why she's doing this final battle. What's her purpose now? And from all of Lotor or even Zarkon, we were right there thinking like, what's going on? How are they? Who are they? What's going on? But not for Haggar. She's just been in the background, and now to bring her up in the front, second episode in the last season, is just too late for me.
I just think they could have stripped it down and revealed her motivation a little bit simpler. They covered a lot of backstory. They covered when she first came out of the quintessence and how she got the name Haggar. They talked about her young...
Yeah,
just kind of stupid, by the way.
That was stupid.
Yeah, Haggar. Who are you? Haggar. Yeah. They talked about her and how Lotor grew up, and her interactions with Lotor when he was the witch. And then they talked about what happened in these 3 years, about how she, came back, she got her memories back, she united the Alteans, and came to power there. That's like a lot to do. I think the fault for this episode is devoting like kind of too much time to like Lotor. Like, while watching this episode and seeing Lotor's story grow up, it was cool to see how Lotor became who he was, but because Lotor really doesn't play an important part in like the later episodes as we kind of thought he would, I thought those parts are extraneous. They should have focused and simplified it down to just Haggar missing Lotor, and that would have given it a much stronger push and given her reasons in later episodes in the season a clearer picture. At least that's my opinion.
I will say that the second episode of season 8 is probably one of my favorite Lotor episodes.
Yeah, it's a good Lotor episode.
Lotor
That's
episode. It's really cool to see like the stuff that he went through growing up. Made me miss Lotor.
It's great.
Made me kind of wish that he was the villain. The one thing I did get out of this, which was something that had been bothering me for a while, is Minerva's like immortal cat. Because I didn't know if that was the same cat that Lotor's henchman had, and then this episode confirmed that it's been the same cat, and so it was kind of it's a weird thing.
So that's
for me
what it did for you. Did the cat?
Like, it's a weird thing for me to care about, but it did kind of shoehorn that reason of like, because we were talking about how Minerva was even going to find the Alteans. And so it kind of shoehorned in that Lotor had spent so much time with this cat that he developed a psychic connection with it. And so that's how come she was able to access Lotor's memories.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
You know what I mean? It's an answer. Is it a good answer? And that's up in the air. But it's
how is that cat 10,000 years old too?
Because of magic.
Did they get fed contestants? And is everybody contestants?
In the flashback episode of like season 3, when it talks about the original Paladins, Minerva says that she's been using quintessence on the cat for testing.
I remember that. Okay, that's a good point. Okay.
There's things to complain about it. Don't get me wrong. There's things to complain about it, but they do kind of answer it. It's just weird. Just a weird way to answer it.
I think
that's a great line. Yeah, to say, Jake, that's like, this is a good Lotor episode. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Because I agree, it's a great Lotor episode. And seeing him, yeah.
If Lotor came about and he was a big bad, then I would have liked this episode, because I do like seeing Lotor as a kid and seeing how he had to grow up with all this, and then maybe it would relate to what he ends up doing in the final battle or whatever, but not as a Haggar episode.
I mean,
and man, I gotta say, these Alteans are dumb.
Yeah.
Weren't they like super smart in their previous, planet?
Yeah, they were. And then all of a sudden, a random woman comes up and says, like, "Oh, I'm Lotor's mother. Voltron killed Lotor." And then the Alteans are like, "Hey, fuck Voltron."
Well, this is like what, third generation of captive Alteans, or like homegrown Alteans. So I imagine that it's like going into an area that has no technology or way of figuring out what's happening in the outside world, and saying, "Hey, you know your god? Yeah, somebody killed him." And they went, "What?" Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I guess we'll listen to you now, because you're the only other person we've seen.
on the topic of good answers and bad answers and answers to long-running questions throughout the show, I just wanted to say I think that might have been another one of my problems with this season in general, is they kind of answered things that I didn't even really give a fuck the answer to in the first place. Like that cat thing, it's like, I guess that explains why she could see or find the Alteans or whatever, but I think we'll discuss more as the episodes go on about the answers to certain questions that I don't think we really needed the answer to.
Like, how did Lotor get his name?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. And I also personally, I think we could have done away with this episode entirely. I mean, yeah, our go with Kobe's idea of just streamlining it to purely Haggar's motivation, and then that's it.
Yeah, I mean, in previous episodes, she would just be doing shady poop in the background, and we would be trying to figure out what she's doing with her magic. I think that would have been a perfect way to do it. And then while she's like trying to free Lotor from the the contestants field that he got stuck in, then we can see a small flashback of her having time with Lotor and she remembering that. I think that would have been stronger.
So you think this would have worked better if they placed this episode a little bit later, where we see it from Voltron's perspective, where Minerva is just this force, and all of a sudden she has these Alteans, and she's after something, and they're like, oh shit, what's she after here? How do we stop her? And then throughout later in the season, you see that she's trying to save Lotor.
Yeah,
at least first.
That would have been I think that would have been a way better way to do it, because it would have dangled this mystery in front of you the whole time. What's her motivation? Will we ever find out? Mm-hmm. And yeah, they could have definitely placed a memory sequence in that part where they were going into like the space magic zone, and like they were in her head and stuff and trying to inception her and whatnot. That would have been a great place to find out her motivation. Yeah,
that would have been cool, because that episode and the ending kind of give that whole episode like no point at all, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, because Minerva has been this like mystery this whole time, I think it would have been better to just keep her as a mystery, because they didn't spend time with her other seasons on her background or her motivations. So we should have just kept the mystery until the end, and then it would have been, surprising, or maybe not. I don't know, but at least it would have given us something to speculate. Yeah, probably would have freed up time for other better things too. Mm-hmm.
It would have been cool, because then we could have been like, because then it's a mystery. Because then from the audience, it would have been pretty clear. Just like, oh, she's trying to save Lotor. That's great. And then it's just like, we think we figured it out. But then in that moment, in the pivot point where you realize she's not trying to save Lotor, she's trying to go to an alternate, universe, later on in the season. Like, that would have been, it's much bigger than we imagined. So I thought that could have been a cool way to do it.
Well, do you think, let me ask you this question, because I wasn't sure, thinking back on it, do you think her original plan was to save Lotor, and then when she saved Lotor and saw him pretty much, quote unquote, dead, that then her new plan was to go to a different reality? Or do you think that was her plan all along?
That would have been so much. I wish think you brought that up because I was hoping they would have done that. I wish that was the case. I don't think they just didn't explain that well in terms of. I wish she was like, I gotta save Lotor, I gotta save Lotor, I gotta save Lotor, and then when she finds Lotor, like how we find him, it's just like, oh shit, this isn't my Lotor. Like I gotta do something else here. Like that would have been better. Or if it's like we think she's trying to save Lotor, she meets this like, what if Lotor was still alive here, and she's like, oh, I don't want you, I want your mech. Like it's like, I'm not here to save you, I'm here to steal your mech to find a different Lotor. Like that would have been a powerful moment. But we don't get any of that. We just get a very background story about like, oh, she's going to save Lotor. No, she's not. She's alternate realities, but we don't see that effect on her, like what her ultimate goal was.
They start to leave the mystery after all this background and like this background dump in episode 2. Then they like don't have her talk at all pretty much until the end, the very final episode. So it's like you don't know her feelings or her emotions or what she's doing at all. It's kind of a little weird. She's just doing things and we're watching it.
Yeah.
So we don't know her emotional
Jake, anything
attachments.
to add about this that you want to, or do you want to move on?
I got nothing with this episode. Like nothing else to say about it really.
Okay. Episodes, I don't know, 3, I think it's our first actual mission episode, which is sad for a final season. But not a lot happens. It's just kind of they fight a mysterious creature on a Galra base. Did anything in this episode stand out to you? And the prisoner's dilemma is what it's called.
I really, and I'm a little upset with it. I really like the idea of like this Atlas crew, or like just, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Star Trek, so I like that they have like this almost Enterprise-esque ship where they have all these characters who are ripe for development and characterization on it. And so I'm like, oh, this will be cool. And then it kind of just was like, all these characters are on the ship with Shiro. And so it's like, oh, okay, so Shiro's lion is now a giant ship and there's other people on it. And one of those people is Lance's sister. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Shiro and friends.
It's pretty much. And so it was cool to see them like attack the Galra base, because they're utilizing this whole coalition that they've developed throughout these seasons, and they do it really quick. And then they go, all right, I hope you guys like that idea, because now we're going back to OG Voltron stuff. And it's like, oh,
split up.
But I like that stuff. And they went, no. Back to, remember when Voltron was by themselves and had to do everything on their own? I'm like, yeah, I watched 7 seasons of that. Let me see this. And
yeah, that's so tough when you see a show grow like that, but then have to revert back to basics, because the idea about Voltron is that you're uniting the universe. So near the end, you want to see the universe fight together.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I think this sort of thing can work. I think Avatar: The Last Airbender did this pretty well in the last season, where it's like, oh, we're all attacking this, but now we have to flee, and now it's just us. But here it's just. It was kind of sloppily done. Just like, we just need to separate for like one mission for something that they established. Like, we're going to go do this on our own. They're like, okay, you go do that. But then they immediately abandon it, like for a while they're separated. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah, I think the writers kind of wrote themselves into a corner with the whole coalition idea, because yes, Voltron is about uniting the universe against a common enemy. But the original intent really was for that coalition to fight Zarkon. And so then when Zarkon died, well, who's the enemy now? I mean, I guess then the enemy became Lotor, but it also became the several split factions of the Galra Empire. And when the Galra Empire was split into those factions, they were essentially weakened, and the coalition now had the advantage against them. And in that, there was no more, I guess, drama to be had, because when you have one unified force against several scattered forces, it doesn't feel like an even matchup anymore. Like, the good guys are going to have the advantage every single time. So they kind of have to push away the coalition so that it's like a mano-a-mano fight again, a la, Voltron off by themselves doing their own thing again, because, they have the numbers. They could just, do a coordinated strike at every single enemy they have and basically win. And at this point of the season, Lotor's dead, Zarkon's dead, and it's basically whoever hasn't joined, all the Galra that haven't joined Voltron at this point, versus all the Galra that have, plus the rest of the universe. So it's like, well, where's the drama in that? So they kind of have to be like, well, let's split up. Okay, see you later, Coalition, that we built the past 7 seasons.
Well, I know the Coalition, if you think about it, in the beginning, they weren't like military-wise. Like, they weren't military soldiers to go out and fight for them. They were just... Voltron was their soldier to go out and free their, their planet, and then they would help them out on like diplomacy, like going out and like uniting the other planets, helping out rebuild their old planet, and then just they would have like a figure there that would be like the diplomat for them. So I don't really think of them as the fighting force of Voltron. And even though you're right that Voltron's mission was to unify the planets, but that doesn't mean that they all have to fight together. It's just they want Voltron to do all the work and then help them rebuild the peace afterwards. So I didn't really mind them separating. I eventually thought it was just going to be Voltron against the big bad anyway. So,
I mean, that's actually not true. The Coalition was definitely used as a military force.
I mean, they were.
They used it for several instances. And there is literally a battle map where it was like, here's all the Galra forces. Here's all of our forces. We're going to attack these forces with our forces.
I guess so. But, I mean, the Atlas, it was attacking with Voltron on that Galra base in that 3rd episode that we're talking about. But they were using it to take down the forces. They weren't killing them,
Well, I'm just talking about the Coalition in general, not just that.
I know. I'm just saying that the original plan for the Coalition was, to help their setup. And, there are some soldiers out there, and there have been ones that have helped out with the fight. And, like the Blade of Marmara has done their fair share in fighting. But not everyone is equipped to help out. And a lot of them are, a lot of them are just like the engineers on the ship and stuff like that, figuring things out. So
who probably die when it changes into a robot.
I wonder about that.
Could do that.
And apparently you only have 5 seconds before everything hits the fan. Like, if you're not in a room by then, you're fucked. Like, you're launched out of a fucking space bar.
Yeah, it says like Atlas change in 5, 4. And Pidge's mom's like, oh shit.
This season made me hate Altean magic because it kind of was like their answer to everything.
Yeah.
It was like, how did we get these weapons? Altean magic. Fuck you. Fuck you and your Altean magic. Give me a fucking reason.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess moving on to episode 4, which is Battle Scars. This is when they go back to Alcarion. My problem was I didn't care about Alcarion, and I was kind of foggy on what happened on Alcarion the very first time we went and saw that. So it's like any connection I felt to these people were just like, oh yeah, these were like the leaf people, and they had cubes or something.
Yeah, space hippies.
It goes back to the nostalgia, the callbacks to characters that I don't think really needed wrap up. For some reason, Pidge had the most deepest connection, and she saw these weird flashes to the planet evacuating. And then at the end, they discover useful information that could save billions. But what was that?
Yeah, what was the useful information?
Did they ever capitalize on that?
They could track where she was going because they have the cube, because she took the cubes.
Oh, because the cubes, yeah.
Useful, yeah, I guess.
But was that even useful? Oh, yeah, it was.
Was it worth the whole episode to know that, basically? Because it was...
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it was a lot of, like, Pidge moving from location to location, seeing flashbacks of characters that we don't really... Well, I personally don't really care about. While they also have a callback to the what's it called, the big space worm that eats planets, dead planets, whatever that is. Wublum, yeah. So it was essentially a Wublum callback and a space hippie tree people callback, and Pidge getting flashbacks because I guess Pidge needs an episode, and after this she's not really useful anymore, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, all that
like
was
her only episode,
like shoehorned Pidge episode.
All that was just for, they have cubes. Cool. Sorry, Jake, what were you saying?
I was going to say, in relation to what you were saying at the time with, was this episode worth it? I was going to say absolutely not. And it also, like, kind of kind of erased what were they called again? What was that race that was on that planet?
The Alcarians.
Yeah.
Well, the Alcarians were, like, their big, like, deal was that, since everything is made out of like the same matter or whatever, you can base down like organic life into technology, and then all of a sudden, and so you're like, oh, okay, and then all of a sudden it becomes the Force, where like Pidge shows up and she can sense their memories and stuff, and it's like, okay, like that's not. I almost went. That's not how the Force works. But,
That's not how the Force
but
works.
it's like that's not how it was supposed to be. There was a rhyme and reason as to why they were able to make the mechs out of the tree. It was because they were restructuring it on a molecular level. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, but Pidge is so in tune with nature that she can see the memories of people. And it's like, that's not what they were saying when they were there last time. This is just utter nonsense.
That's like someone watched that episode and misinterpreted it like the wrong way, and then that writer wrote this episode. It's like, I understand all about Arcarians.
Yeah. I did like that while they were going around fighting the Weblum, that Hunk calls Karan, and Karan tells him how to fight it, but the signal is all messed up like the video was.
Yeah, again.
Like the same
like
way. See,
that callback.
There's everything. Every episode has like a pound for pound trade. It's like there's a good callback and there's a bad callback.
Yeah.
Because that was a good one. That one works. And I felt bad. The only thing I felt bad about that one is just like, man, it's 4 episodes in, and like Karan has had nothing to do. Like this isn't going to be a Karan heavy season. He's not going to have any arcs.
He became Shiro's driver. That's what he did.
Yeah, he really did.
Pretty much. I also, what I think is kind of funny is like when Pidge is going from location to location, like sensing all these force ghosts. Force ghosts.
There's a goat over there.
Is Allura is basically just tagging along.
Yeah.
But she literally doesn't do anything. She's just like, oh, okay, I'll follow you over there. But meanwhile, the rest of Voltron's off trying to fight off this giant space worm, and it's not until like a couple Force ghost visions later where she's like, oh, I should probably go help them. See you later. I just
and then her
don't know
line was
what's
like
up
the
with
key to like slightly slow it down just like a little bit. It's like, where were you before, Allura?
that. Yeah, you could have been helping this whole time.
Yeah. Okay. So the next episode 5. I think this was the episode where I just became sad because of the lack of the potential for what this season could have been. Because Jeff and Tori, we watched together, and throughout this episode, they're being hunted by someone on a really cool planet, and they have to strip down to like their bare basics and like on a volcano planet. Cool concept. I'm all on board with that. And it has like this mystery character about like, oh, who could this be? And then Jeff, you said something that just completely ruined the whole rest of the season.
Yes.
Because what was something cool that it could have been?
I thought it was a Shiro clone.
Oh, that would have been cool. But
That would have been so much better.
Yeah.
Because then it's a Keith versus Shiro story again, which I think is a good backbone for this series, and then sets up the fact that the reason Haggar has taken over everything is because she has an army of Shiro clones, and so it's like really like you're fighting a bunch of Shiro armies, and it's like that's cool. Like I was like, oh, so excited, and I was like, wait. I don't think that's Shiro. No, it's got to be Shiro, right? Oh no, it's not Shiro. It's got to be that other girl. And what's her name?
Axa? No, wait, that's not it.
I don't remember her name. The big
Axa was the one that's on the ship.
Yeah.
Who we had the B
Zephrith?
plot of.
Zethrin?
Ezor.
Oh.
Wait, no, not Ezor.
it is
Zethrid.
Zephyr. It's one of those names.
Yeah, it's Zethrid.
Zethrid. Zethrid. It is
I could
Zethrid.
see it on the computer right now.
Which is because that's not a good reveal. Because one, I don't remember what happened to Zethrid. Like, was she left for dead?
Well, they kind of play
Jake, do
off
you remember?
that. They play like because last time we saw them, Keith and who's the one that's on the ship? Like who's the one?
Axa.
Keith
Axa.
and
Axa.
Keith and her kind of blow a hole into space, like with the other two almost being like pulled
Right.
in. And so when she's going around going like, they took her from me, I'm like, oh, she died. So she did get pulled out of space. And it's like, nope, she just left an
She has an
abusive
eye patch.
relationship. Okay.
Yeah, she.
Kind of left it because you're angry and super pissy.
You know,
But that was another. There was no. I didn't care one bit
Yeah.
about her grudge with Keith and everything about Keith about this because I was just sad. It's like, man, a Shiro clone would have answered the questions we had about Shiros and would have made a really compelling story instead of this one that I just don't care about on this really cool lava planet.
yeah, I mean, as I was saying before, there are answers to questions in this season that I didn't even want the answer to, and this was one of those questions. They dedicated a whole episode to characters that we hadn't seen in a long, long time.
Or cared about.
And it's like, I would have been fine with them just being blown out that space hole and never seeing them again. That's a fair conclusion to those characters, whatever. So yeah, I feel like they just wasted a lot of time with the season overall. I think that's kind of a theme as we were talking about these episodes, is a lot of these episodes could have been streamlined or just left out entirely, and I think this one could have been left out entirely and invested into something more worthy.
Or a Shiro clone.
Or just make it a Shiro clone.
Well, I kind of liked the B plot of Axa, being on the Atlas. Like, I kind of like that.
Except we don't see her again.
Yeah, except that doesn't become important at all.
Yeah.
Out the window. Like, I was like, all right, AXA development, because, they've hinted at, like, a her and Keith relationship since Keith found her in the vault.
I was just going to...
Yeah.
I was totally going to mention that. That would have been a cool relationship, I think.
Yeah.
I was totally down for Keith.
They've had chemistry since the beginning. He saved her.
Yeah. And I thought, I interpreted it as, like, Keith was the reason why AXA kind of turned in the first place, like, kind of... as she progressed towards the light or whatever, she kind of realized that Voltron was full of good people, like Keith, who saved her in the Wublum.
Yeah. And she is the most, I guess, complex flip-floppy character, because she was the one who saved, like, when she was working for Haggar, and then when she brought Lotor to him, and then they shared that look, and then she was the one who teamed up with Lotor again and shot him there. So it's like she's always been an interesting character that deserves more exploration, way more than just her trying to adjust to this ship. Like, I mean, that was nothing. That was just to introduce more of the side characters, which I just don't really care about.
What's their names?
Yeah, I couldn't
Voltron.
I couldn't remember them.
And then even the structure of this episode was weird, because they land on the planet and they're like, oh shit, we need to split up, or we need to either ditch our suits and continue on, or they're gonna hunt us. It's like, well, you're doing okay with your suits. I'd rather you keep your suits on. But then Keith, like, goes off on his own, wearing his suit, and, like, separates from everybody, while everybody else ditches their suit and runs. But that was never explained, I don't think.
I mean, it makes sense if you think about it, but they don't explain it. Is that Keith was trying to lead them off their trail.
I'm sure they missed that line. I was just rolling my eyes about how whoever she was, like, Zethrid looked like grown-up Red X. Like, I thought, like, man, I was saying that too much.
Something that they kind of did, because I thought it was going to be like this the whole thing. I thought all these, like, space pirates were going to be people that they had beefs with.
Yeah, because the episode's called The Grudge.
Yeah.
So.
And so I was like, all these guys, like, have beefs with them. And then, like, that guy goes, you don't have your brother here to help you this time, Green Paladin. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like, there we go.
Yeah, that dude.
I'm like, there's going to be more of them. And it's like, no, it's just that one. It was that guy. And
that would have been, and see, that's another great plot. They could have actually faced consequences about, like, they could have played with the downside of Voltron's effect on the universe, because these first few episodes talk about, the coalition, they've united the universe. But they've caused some grudges along the way. So if all these people teamed up in, like, an Injustice League type thing, and it's like a secondary kind of unit, awesome episode, all on board. And then the guy was like, I've learned some new tricks, and then he's beaten by just having rope tied around his leg and, like, strung up. And then he's like,
the same tricks.
The same tricks. Yeah. All right. So yeah, that was the moment where I thought, man, this is going to be this squandered the potential that I thought it was going to have. But then moving on to episode 6, which I think was, like, the first episode that I thought was pretty awesome, like, in terms of animation and fighting style, but also highlighted the problems of the season. So Genesis. This is when they're like, okay, we're gonna fight Hanerva. We're gonna see your plan, and then everything goes to shit. So I thought it was cool. The effects were awesome. The fighting was cool. It was the excitement that I wanted to see. And then, but it goes back to what I was saying before about how Hanerva's plan was never fully established before. So we don't know what she's after, and it makes everything kind of confusing and unrelatable, I guess. Like, I wasn't attached to any of this. So this is the halfway point. What did you guys think?
I forgot the episode until we just started talking about it.
I will say that I was very, like, the most excited I've been for this season was seeing Lotor return.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, Lotor is going to be in this season? Okay, I'm down for this, but no, we don't see Lotor. We just see his mech, which is a cool mech. I like seeing that in action. I like seeing the mech totally impale that dude with the tail spear thing. That was awesome.
Yeah. Like, oh shit. Murdered.
But yeah, no, it's Yeah, like I said, I don't think it was like it was good fighting, but lacked substance.
Yep.
Yeah. And then it moves on to, I think, a device, because I think some people love this episode for its originality.
Really?
I think the next episode was the worst episode of Voltron by far.
Is that the documentary episode?
The
Yeah.
documentary episode. I hate it. I thought it was boring. I liked the concept of it. It's like, oh, it's kind of. I liked seeing it from the other side, documentary format in through the side characters. But the problem is, it didn't develop the side characters enough for it to be justified. I thought the awkward pauses weren't funny, and I thought it was a weird placement episode right after the season had officially started the episode before. Like, that's just like, okay, now the plan's here. Like, I get it in terms of if you want a cool down, fun episode, but especially in its placement here, because the next episode is also a fun episode where they have a relaxing day of it.
Yeah.
So it's weird that they do two in a row, and where this one is just so uninteresting, in my opinion.
Yeah, they basically just kill all the momentum from the last episode.
Yeah.
The last episode was like a shot of energy. It was like, yeah, all right, now we're onto the main story. You know, Lotor is back potentially, and however, you know, she's making moves. I'm ready to see the next one, and then, yeah, they kill the momentum with this one, and then I totally agree with you. It's weird that they would do two of these weird, fun episodes, and yeah, another episode they could have completely cut, and nothing really would have been lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not. Go ahead.
It's weird that, like, this episode, like, out of the 4 fighter pilots, this episode decided to focus on, like, the 2 least interesting fighter pilots.
That's true.
Yeah.
And, like, something I hate. Like, I am all for, like, a character having, like, a weird trait, and then, like a while later, it's explained why, as long as it was planned from, like, that original appearance. Like, the guy, the sharpshooter guy, is not very talkative when they first meet him in last season, right? And in
Kincaid.
Yeah,
is his name.
Kincaid. And then in this season, he goes, I'm not very talkative because I'm just not very talkative. And it's like,
I only talk in front of this camera.
I'm like, screw you. Like, they went, oh, we wrote that guy poorly and people called us out. Or did we write him poorly? And it's like, no, you fucking did. This is not an answer. This is you trying to, like, poke cheekiness at your bad writing and just making it worse. And so I didn't like that we focused on him, and then that the other girl is just female Lance.
Yeah.
And, like, I would have preferred the other 2 if we had to pick.
And,
Yeah.
and the underlying point of Day 47, or like what the actual story of was about these Altean pilots that they've been rescuing from these beasts, these robeasts, and then them trying to, like, convince them to talk and get them their information. And then, like, Hunk cooks a traditional, like, Altean dessert and feeds it to them and, like, gets them on their side. I think even though that could have also been cut out, we didn't need to know about that. But if they wanted to do that episode, I would rather have seen that whole thing come to play than see Kincaid with a shaky camera and only getting parts and bits of it, and mostly that ends up being in a dog's mouth or something like that. It's just not good.
So it clearly should have been a Hunk episode, because that whole concept of using food to help them, and to unite them, that sets up where his character ends up. So having it as, like, a C plot in this one that ties it together, yeah, that tells me right now it should have all been about Hunk.
Because Hunk's never really had an episode to himself, really, except for, I think, in the second season or first season. But other than that, they've kind of forgotten about him, so it would have been nice to give him some limelight.
Should have been a Hunk episode.
Definitely should have been a Hunk episode. Like, and they kind of, like, try to be cheeky about it because he keeps showing up in the documentary, where he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for this specific flower," and, like, and everything. It's just it's annoying.
Yeah. Okay. Next episode is a part fun episode, part really dark episode, and it's the beginnings of Allura's arc that doesn't make much sense. But let's talk about the fun side first. They go to a carnival. They go to Clear Day because it's a weird retcon, because it's like in the other fun episode before this, where Karan's doing the parades, and they're like, you've missed Clear Day, and that only happens in, like, one in a smorgasbord, and they're like, oh no, we can never go again. And then they get a call. It's like, oh, actually, this time, because it's like a leap year, that it's actually happening right now.
Oh yeah, right,
Fuck
right.
you.
An answer that's not a very good answer.
Good answer, exactly. But I like the concept of the carnival because everyone has kind of a fun thing. I like the fact that the carnival is like completely against Quran.
Yep.
Like it's like all like Quran hated
Quran the
games.
liar,
Like, that's fun. Yes, exactly. Like that was cool. Quran's yodel calling was an interesting thing. Lance was bogged down by trying to win something for Allura, which immediately sucked.
Ugh.
Because that resolution was stupid too. Because like he's like, unless that was just so Lance being dumb, where it's just like I want to win something shiny, and she's like, oh, blue lion right here. It's like the only one of its kind. He's like, I must have that. And then he tries to win and he loses. He's like, oh, but let's make a deal. And then the next scene is him signing autographs for all those blue lions.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I won it. Like, was that supposed to show that Lance was dumb? Or was it just a weird answer to that? Just like, oh, shit, you just give it to him. We don't care about this.
Yeah, it totally cheapens that.
Yeah.
But what the hell, Lance? I mean, I think there were some funny beats in this show or in this episode. I don't know. I particularly liked when they got stuck in that "It's a Small World" ripoff, and then like Keith is like, "I can't stand this anymore." And he like busts out it with his sword and like slashes a hole in the wall to run out. I don't know. I think that's funny.
It's
I
funny
think
that
Keith
they
and Hunk.
I think it's funny that they looped together Keith and Hunk in that thing. That's like the most opposite type of duo that they've never really interacted with each other ever. It was funny.
Yeah, Keith and Hunk.
Yeah, I was
need
about
more
to
of
say,
that.
I think they're an underrated pairing. Like they had a really great moment last season when Keith like said to Hunk, like, I look up to you because you I know you're always scared, but you always face the battle, like no matter what. So I
Yeah.
think they're like a really interesting pairing, these two. And I'm glad we got to highlight it again.
There's a part.
And
Sorry.
you go ahead.
I was gonna.
Go ahead.
There's a part when Pidge takes the family picture.
Yeah.
That I weirdly got obsessed with because it's her whole family. Matt's there, but so is that one like alien girl who's constantly in like full armor.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
And
like
so
No
I was
Face
like, wait,
McGee.
are Matt and her dating? And I looked it up.
Are they?
No, like I couldn't find anything solid.
You've just discovered the secret of this, that they're dating.
That's the
Maddie's
real
found
romance.
love.
I'm like, Matt found love out there.
They never give her a name, right?
No, not that I heard.
Okay.
Speaking of Matt, I wish we saw more of Matt. Honestly, I think when they introduced him to the show, I think he would have been if they pointed the camera more at him, I think it would have added I guess a different angle to the show. I particularly like when he was introduced to the whole Voltron team, and he was all like, "Oh, Allura!" Like he totally was like, totally attracted to Allura at first sight, and I think that would have been a cool kind of triangle, you know? Maybe. I mean, as much as I don't like the Lance and Allura thing, like giving Lance some competition for Allura would have been fun, and Matt was kind of like this kind of go-get-em-y smart guy character, but he was instead relegated to just like going on squad missions and stuff.
But even when he was like in the past, when he was on squad missions, like he was like squad leader, like he was like giving out directions and actually interacting with like the group as a leader. Instead, he does he even say anything this whole season? Like one line?
He says a bit every now and then.
Not a whole lot.
But it's because his voice actor is probably too expensive.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Okay, let's talk about the coolest fun part is Shiro's arm wrestling.
The best part.
I dug that whole
You
thing.
dug the whole thing. You dug.
That whole, yeah, it was so over the top. I kept saying it's over the top, and then because that's a movie with Sylvester Stallone about arm wrestling, and I love
I
it.
hate you so much.
I think it would have been better if he used his non-robot arm. I mean, I know that now that would have been insane because his last battle is up against a guy with the 2 robot arms, and if he had used his actual arm to beat that guy, that would have solidified Shiro as total badass of the year. But I don't know. I felt it was kind of cheap that he used his robot arm, honestly. And I know that they hang a hat on it. The next episode,
That's
like
the
you
best
see the
part
crew
about that.
kind of arguing, like, oh, you know, he won with a robot arm. Well, they all had robot arms. The last guy had 2 robot arms. It's like, well, sure, but I don't know. I still think it would have been cooler if he used his legit arm. I think that would have really, you know, I don't know. I see Shiro as kind of like an honorable character. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like it would have been cooler even if he lost. Like, let's say he lost, you know, whatever. He would have been like, well, you know, I'm not going to use this arm. I'm going to use this arm. And like, say he rips off his sleeve and he's been like working out this whole time.
Because
Like, come on, tell me that wouldn't be badass.
No, because the thing is that totally 110% would have worked with Shiro's character, because Shiro's character is one who's old now. He had a disease that was killing him beforehand. He's been replaced on his team, and he's struggling to find that if he still has, like, the strength to do things. So having to be like, I'm rejecting my robot arm, I still got this because I'm still me, even though I'm in, I guess, a body of a clone, and it's my consciousness. It's like, I'm just going to do this, my own way. That would have been awesome.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Shiro, I am really disappointed that he didn't get to do like really any cool shit this season. I think in our preview discussion, Jake, you mentioned something about there being a white paladin, and I was totally on board. I was like, oh, sick. Hopefully I really hope that happens, because I want to see Shiro back in some paladin gear again, and that would be cool. But that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so,
Nope, because Hanover murders the white lion.
Yep, and that's it. And
it's like, oh, he probably won't be the paladin now.
Shiro,
White Lion's dead.
It's really disappointing. I mean, I just said that Shiro is my favorite character, but really he hasn't had his time to shine since he left that first time. Ever since they brought him back, he's been kind of just there,
Oh, no, I disagree. End of season 7 was like all him versus the whole Sendak thing where he's like leading and then he like parajumps and he fights and then he comes back and then he leads the ship again and he turns into the Atlas. That's all Shiro awesomeness right there.
I don't know. I liked him better as like the leader of Voltron. I don't know. I just like the way he interacts with the rest of the crew as opposed to just being kind of the sole actor. I think a better moment than that was probably when you had that Shiro and Keith moment.
Agreed.
And they were on that fight with all the Shiro clones in the background and all that. That was
that's
probably back to form with the Shiro that I knew and loved back in the day. But we don't really get to see.
And now he's reduced to arm wrestling.
And-
Yeah, with his robot arm. Fucking cheater.
The one thing I thought was kind of weird at the time was that for some reason the navigator is there, and he's in every time Shiro wins, he's there cheering for Shiro, like in the background. And I'm like,
The who? The
navigator.
Yeah, nice little catch there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, it's really weird that he's there. And then at the end of the series, I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
Great catch.
They're building that seed right from the start.
Oh man, it's just
Subconsciously,
more
yeah.
chemistry
Great character
than Lance and
development.
Allura.
That's a great segue, because let's talk about Allura now, because she gets on the bright side. Lotor returns in visions, which is cool, and we get Lotor.
Then we think in our head, yeah, Lotor's back, woohoo!
Yep, but no.
Yeah, Lotor's
he's just a
back.
psychic
We think
vision guy.
I guess they didn't explain exactly what that was.
Space magic.
It wasn't even real Lotor telling, because Lotor's a pile of goo in his machine. So it's like, what was that?
It was the space goo.
Dark
It's
entity?
I
space
guess
magic.
it's dark magic, like empowering her. I don't know. It's possessing her.
So
That's what I mean.
while everyone's having a real fun time in Carnival Land, Allura's going through some serious shit. So I think it's like the weirdest A and B plot of any episode.
seriously.
It's like really dark. She's being like traumatized.
Yeah, totally opposite tones in this episode.
And it ends, of course, with her taking the darkness.
And I think that's a really cool development. I was actually on board with Allura maybe going bad for the rest of the season, but I don't think they fully capitalize on that. Like, she accepts the energy, and everyone around her is like, "What have you done? You did a really bad thing." But I don't really remember if they actually conclude that storyline that she basically accepted this dark magic power that's supposed to corrupt her. I mean, it's supposed to make her more powerful, and we kind of see those powers at play. But we don't really see the consequences of that. At least I don't remember.
All it does it makes her pass out for a long time. It makes them delay the final fight that puts them in the hugest jeopardy ever, and that's it. But she doesn't
Makes her really angry.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
It gives her headaches.
Yeah, so that's another disappointing part of the season.
I don't know. Do you think it's against her character to take that dark entity? Because even at the beginning, she's like, "No, I know that's bad. I know that's bad. Like, I shouldn't do that." And then I know, like, she's like having these visions of people trying to convince her. But I think she's smarter than that. Why would you ever take something that's even called a dark creature? Like, what the heck?
If they set up the Hanerva versus Allura like rivalry or something at the beginning of the season where it really justified why she felt like this was the only way for her to beat her, then that would have made sense. But it's like she doesn't even really have that big of a connection to Minerva at this point. So it's like why does Allura feel? But mostly, I guess, because the Alteans and saving these Alteans, but even that's not developed well.
Yeah. And even like they stress that I don't have the power to defeat her. I need this power. But if you look at the end of the battle, she doesn't use the power. So did they need it? No. It's kind of dumb.
And it's at this point, is it clear what Minerva's plan is? I don't remember if they actually know what she's doing at this point or not.
I don't think they do.
Well,
that's how come like she takes it, is to figure, because every time an Altean tries to tell her what Minerva's plan is, they die. So I think that's how she's like, I'm going to figure out where she's going and what her plan is.
Yeah, and that's how they segue into the next episode where they go.
That's such and Altean magic. It's like I don't get it because this is a dark entity that if you talk against Minerva, you die. So Allura's plan is I'm gonna take this. Why? Like all it does, I thought it was just like what's the point?
Yeah, I mean it literally like incapacitated her Altean friends that she just befriended.
Yeah. It makes you more powerful. No, it doesn't. It kills you if you talk against Minerva.
Yeah. Like I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't, in my opinion, sound like something that Allura as a character would do.
Yeah, there was not enough. They didn't build up enough like desperation in that moment. Like I guess, yeah, Allura's fellow Alteans are at risk, and every Altean that has information that speaks for her dies. But they just didn't build that moment enough, and this is kind of an inappropriate episode to have this kind of plot anyways. Like like half of it is a fun house episode, the other half is this dark shit that we have to go through. So yeah, from like a development perspective and kind of like a placement point of view, it doesn't make sense.
It's a really lame setup for the two parts, part 1 and 2. It's called the Knights of Light, and they decide it's like we're gonna go into Allura's Minerva's mind. Like, okay,
dumb.
I mean,
why?
AKA fuck you, Lance episode, in my opinion. This is the worst episode. Knights of Light part 1 is the worst episode of the series to me.
Interesting. Why?
Because it's just bad. Like they were like, hey, remember how everyone really liked those original paladins? Like, well, let's bring them back. And everyone's like, wait a minute, the original paladins who like 3 of them didn't talk, and they're like, yeah, but now they'll talk. And the blue paladins just sounds fucking weird. Yeah. And they snap them out of it, not through like their connection with Voltron. Like it's like they're like, oh, we snapped them out of it through our connection with Voltron. But before that happens, Allura does some dark magic shit with her face, and then they snap out of it. Like, so it's not even like fully shown that Voltron snaps them out of their weird corruption. It doesn't explain how they get corrupted, and then it's just to shoehorn that the paladins accept their new paladins. It's like, oh well, the yellow paladin's like, well, you know, like love and connection. Like, you got that, hunk. And it's like, well, you got, and then green paladin's like, you observe the world. You got that, Pidge. And then Allura's dad goes, you love my daughter. That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. And then it's like, no, fuck you. The Red Lion's the right hand of Voltron. Tell him that. Yeah. Tell him how the Red Lion is supposed to be like the spiritual center. And he goes,
yeah,
but it's really cool that you love my daughter and she loves you.
Love my daughter. We both love
my daughter. I'm like, fuck you, Red Lion, you fucking fuck. Mm-hmm. The only good part is Lance uses the sword for 5 seconds.
Hey, you got what you want.
You got your wish. You got one sword. Oh my god. So yeah, this whole part of this episode is just. This whole scenes just felt like individual scenes not put together well in an episode. Just like, oh, we fight a new challenge, we beat the new challenge, we move on to the next room, and we beat the next challenge the same exact way. And it's just repetitive and boring.
Yeah.
And unnecessary. You're right. We didn't care about those old paladins one bit.
Mm-hmm. And the whole point of this episode, the whole point they went into Minerva's mind was to figure out her plans, which is, you know, kind of like an Inception ripoff. Just gonna throw that out there. But in the end, they vaguely figure out her plan, but they wait until in the next episode. They wait until they track down Minerva, and they're like, oh no, she's at Altea. She's gonna open the rift. Blah blah blah. Right there. It's like, well, they just figured it out right there. Like, it totally was clear at that moment. So everything that they found out in that episode was totally irrelevant. And they kept saying, oh, it's dangerous to be in her mind. It's dangerous. She's going to find out. She can poison you. She's most strongest in her mind. Like, they could have avoided all of that and still continued on with the story. So the fact that they just figured out the plan anyway just makes that whole interaction for those two episodes very unnecessary.
The only way this would have worked is that because they don't talk about the fact that that Lotor's robot comes back, murders it, and goes off. They don't talk about the fact that, hey, Lotor's kind of alive. Like, that's a problem for us. Like, oh god, like he looks crazy. They never once mention his name. And then in this one, they find out that Lotor's dead, and she's actually using his mech to travel. Like, that's a huge revelation to the plot, but they don't react like at all. Like, they're just like, oh, this is what she wants to do. But no, you needed to set up the season as Lotor's back. Fuck. Like, it's like, oh no, she doesn't want Lotor. She wants his mech. What's she gonna do with that? But they don't. They just slowly. They do nothing in this episode. Episodes.
It was a lot
except
of
uncorrupt Zarkon, I guess.
Don't even get me started on that one. That one pissed me off. It's such a cringy fucking line. You were their leader, and you betrayed them. After he died and was possessed by an evil entity, Keith, he didn't do it on fucking purpose, you dick.
Yeah, you're talking to a version that like loved his paladin.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh wait, no, this one's the nice Zarkon. You know what we're gonna do? Let's give him back all of his evil memories. Like, let's force him to remember all the bad stuff he did, even though that wasn't him. That was the one who it's like, oh shit, what happened? All my friends, you're here. It's like, evil.
It's like, and Allura's like, remember this shit that you didn't do? And it's like, fuck you, Allura. What the fuck?
Yeah, that was
You're the one who
up.
just took a dark entity.
Her.
Yeah, exactly.
Another question.
The same thing that corrupted them, maybe.
Another question I have is, why do all the Galras look like cat people, except for Zarkon, who just looks like a lizard man Shiro? It's
because
that's the True Blood line right there. The lizard,
the pure blood.
The cats are the sub Galra. I was gonna say, so this is a lot of exposition. And some of it needed, some of it unneeded. I just felt like there was like a lot of reward for like not really much struggle. Like, yeah, they were fighting and it looked like they were, having a bad time, but you just know that they're gonna win in the end. And suddenly they got all this information. Oh, okay, now the paladins are here. Now they're on your side. Okay, now they go to the next thing. Oh, okay, now Uncle Zarkon's back, and now he's gonna tell you more information about that. It was just kind of. It was just It was like they're going through the motions, Like, they might as well have just given us all these answers and, like, one exposition dump and be done with it. But, like, they had to have these sort of fake conflicts along the way of, like, I'm fighting my past paladin, and there was not really even a satisfying conclusion to that fight. Because, like I said, Jake, he basically just used dark space magic, and that was it. Yeah. Okay.
Isn't the only thing that came out of this was...
No lesson learned?
That... Like, Allura, like, was passed out for, like, an episode or two. Like, that's what happens after this, right? She doesn't wake up.
Yeah, I guess that's the consequence. But then she wakes up in that same episode, too,
I know.
think.
It's like, oh, everything's fine. She just had to sleep. But everyone else is fighting for their lives. It's literally the biggest battle of their lives, and she's, like,
she just had to take
passed out it. Yeah, it's
take a nap. She's so tired being the last Altane. If you don't know that she's the last Altane and she's lost everything, then don't worry, she'll tell you 50,000 times. I feel like every time she talks, she's just like, you don't know what it's like. I've lost everything. It's like, well, you haven't. Go talk to Karan or something.
But yeah, that was the only thing, and that just set up for the next episode, which, was like whatever, so...
Then we move into like this is the episode where you have Minerva's flashbacks. Like, this is where you actually incept her memories, and you could have the paladins witness these things about, she really wasn't an evil witch. She's actually a kind of a sympathetic character who's after the love of her son.
Yeah.
This is where you have all those flashbacks.
That makes sense.
And you have the paladins be a part of them, so then they could actually see and understand her as a villain.
And it would make the ending make more sense.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. God God, I didn't like this season going into it, but talking about it more with you guys, I really don't like it now.
We're feeling the fires.
Yep.
All right, so then I guess we're on to the final stretch, like the final 3 episodes, where it's just everything kind of goes to shit, I guess, because it's a weird plot device. Like, we can't get to her because Allura's passed out. She's the only one who can transport us. Like, I thought that's weird.
That's also wrong, isn't it? Because like there was a season, there was like that part when they first fought Minerva, right? Like they had to escape the white hole or whatever, and Voltron, which I'm pretty sure Allura was on, was trying to escape the white hole, and the Atlas was like, "Turn on that portal. You got to time it when they're here." It's like, well, how do they turn it on when she's on Voltron? I thought does she have to be on the ship to do the magic thing, or I don't know. And I'm pretty sure there are other instances where they opened the portal without Allura's help.
Well, don't they send Hunk off this episode by opening a portal without Allura?
Well, there we go.
Altean magic.
That's true.
Fuck Altean magic.
Yeah.
And this has we talked about this as one of the stupidest moments because they go to face Minerva and it's the final battle and everything's great and they don't have enough power, and then Hunk suddenly arrives with the Balmira. He's like, "Guys, I brought the Balmira."
So stupid.
And then Minerva's like, "Oh, my energy source," and just uses it.
I just wanted someone to be like, "Why?"
Why? Guys, I brought she needs a power source. Don't worry, guys, I brought a power source.
No one was like, "Put that Balmira back now." Come on.
Yeah, it's like that was the wrong choice to make.
Yeah, it just seems like it like weakens Minerva's plan because she literally had to wait for them to bring that, and then she can destroy the whole fabric of time and space.
I mean, I think it kind of weakens like Hunk's credibility as a paladin altogether. Like, these are supposed to be the saviors of the universe. Holy shit, we are fucked. They basically fed her exactly what she needed, the big energy source.
Oh, does that mean that Hunk was the true villain all along?
Hunk's like, finally, soon Voltron will be destroyed once I have this power.
I'll get up a hold of the lion.
I would just love to see a shot where like he's in the kitchen, like make me stirring up some batter, and the camera is on the batter, and it slowly pans up, and you see an evil smile crawl onto Hank's face, some shadow on him.
All right,
now
I'm come to the conclusion Hunk is the true villain.
Actually, you know what? Okay, let's just skip him to the end. His epilogue is that he gets a cooking empire. That's what they call it. They call it a literal empire. You thought the fucking Galra Empire was bad? He's indoctrinating people through his cooking. He is the real villain.
The new Voltron series.
He's subtly influencing all these diplomats through his food. He's like the guy pulling all the strings. Oh.
Yeah.
I just want to point out something before we move on. So Hunk brings a Balmira through wormhole, was it, right?
Yeah, the wormhole that Allura needed to open or something?
But then in the next scene, when things start to go to shit, all these Balmiras just suddenly, like, fucking show up. They're
it's like, all the Balmerans are here now.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, we heard that one Balmira was here. Let's all go in."
We heard that one Balmira got stabbed, and all of us want to get stabbed, too.
Oh, man.
It's just weird that they just did that.
Yeah, it was really out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a nice power thing, but then I guess it doesn't matter because Minerva merges her mech with Lotor's robot, which means that Minerva is sitting next to a dead goo of her son, I guess, because like he's there too, and then goes off to start to find a reality where she finds her son.
It's kind of. I just want to point out it's kind of messed up because I think it's pure. The one thing that she keeps saying is like, "I'll soon be with you, my son." It's like, no, you just fucking killed your son from your neglectance. Like, that is your son in goo right now, dead. If you go to a different reality, that's not your son. Like, it's just messed up.
I mean, I guess she's evil, right? Evil mom, I guess.
This is
kind of what they're going for.
Like, the best parts of the season, I feel like, are when they're chasing her and when she lands at that alternate reality.
Yeah, I think so too, because it shows... It had the thing where it's like I really like where it's like every character trying to do stuff. Like Karan had to keep the portal open. Didn't the Atlas at this point the Atlas and Voltron form together into a super Voltron?
Yeah. Oh, that's what I wanted. I wanted them to combine,
Oh, they did?
and I got it. And as soon as that happened, I just turned my brain off, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna enjoy the rest of this ride. You know what? The season's already blown to shit. Whatever.
It got real fun at this point. Like, like it was really enjoyable, and like what the show's always been good at is even though the hype was always the same, it's just like they lose and they're like, guys, we can't do it. I'm passed out.
Yeah.
No energy, and they're like, wait, guys, we're
Try harder,
Voltron.
everyone.
They're like, yeah. And they get up and go. I mean, like it's the same thing every time, but like the music, the score for these last few episodes, I thought was really epic, and the animation was great, and the fighting was really cool.
This is
So
where
this
the
is when the
budget
show
went.
became fun.
Yeah, it became fun again.
And yeah, just like, oh, it's awesome traveling through realities, and they're breaking all these realities. Like, dope.
I kind of
Well,
hated.
let me.
Oh, sorry.
go
Go ahead. I kind of hated that the new transformation that they got, like the Voltron Atlas. When it finally catches Minerva, she like one hit KOs it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what's the point? She just did that to regular Voltron.
Yeah.
I was just
But then
gonna.
they come back.
I was just
come
gonna
back.
mention that Voltron Atlas looks kind of dumb.
I don't
He
know.
has a
I
white
mean,
lion in
I
it.
think
Cool.
I think the Atlas by itself looks kind of dumb. It has no neck.
Yeah.
But like Voltron Atlas kind of like gets slimmer, you know? It's like, okay, it looks
It's
like
it's all right.
Atlas has been hitting the
They
gym,
could
you know?
have they could have added some flair here and there. I'm just saying.
I like how when it merged, it kicked off every single crew member except for the 5 of them,
Yep.
and that's a huge, massive ship. Like,
Shiro piloted it with his feelings.
yeah, it's like what?
'Cause
It's massive. That holds the whole like ecosystem there.
Well, let me ask you this: because Voltron takes 5 pilots or 5 paladins, do you think it would have been better if there was like 5 people still on there? Our favorite characters.
Kincaid.
No, I was thinking
yeah.
I was thinking like the worst. Like,
Well-
what's that guy's name that you hate? Sleuth or
Oh, that stupid, what is that thing? It looks like a mole with like 8 arms. It has a
I
bird's
love
beak.
that character.
Oh,
Oh, I hate that guy.
Sven?
Oh,
Not Sven.
No.
Sven is
something,
Sloth,
whatever.
it's
That's
Sloth.
what it is.
Sloth. There you go, Sloth and.
he was too much this
I
season.
did like him yell, like, explain his nonsense, though, because, like, Pidge's like, oh, you can't predict things based off that. He goes, yeah, I fucking can. And it's like, oh.
Science.
She goes,
I
"Oh."
will say, I prefer him when he's serious. But when he's like, fucking like, did you wear the right socks? It's like, fuck off, dude. Like, I don't know if I wore the right socks or not. But yeah, I mean, now that you mentioned that, it would have been sick if every single character of the Coalition was piloting that thing at the same time. Kind of akin to like, yeah, Gurren Lagann, when everyone was like the pilot and they all had like cool shit to do. I mean, that would have been awesome. That's the Coalition right there, right? Like, that's the thesis of Voltron, like uniting the universe. Okay, everyone is Voltron now, and we all get to pilot like a little cell in this giant Voltron body.
I would have taken
think that would've been
Gurren
sick.
type thing where they're all piloting it, or Mighty Morphin Power Rangers where they're all just sitting at like one console,
Oh,
just doing arm poses.
Yeah, all together. That'd be great.
that would be sick.
Form sword, and then they just all raise their right hand together.
That would have been awesome, yeah.
I would. That would have been fun. It's like not even sarcastic. Like I would have fucking loved that.
Yeah, no, I totally would have. A mixture of the two, all of them at a single console.
Okay, but does that make Shiro more powerful because he piloted Voltron by himself, or like Voltron Atlas portion of Voltron Atlas?
Is that how it works?
I don't know.
It would have been so great if, like, because if our plot point from earlier about like if all these Shiro clones like were running the galaxy, if all of a sudden like Shiro had to like overcome them all and united them all, and then, like, it's just a bunch of Shiros
Shiro.
like running the Atlas.
We are one. That would have been insane. Yeah, you know what? I would have loved the season if it just kind of like tore out the brakes and just fucking ran with all these crazy ideas. We had Shiro clones everywhere, fusing and stuff.
Yeah,
White
he
Paladin,
he uses like his psychic mind to bring back the dead Shiros, and they all come back and like start piloting.
zombie Shiros.
Would have been awesome.
At the end, Shiro marries a Shiro.
Oh.
Yeah, the only one who's worthy of Shiro is another.
Yeah. Shiro's his best man. I mean, Keith is on the groomsman, but he's not the best man.
Keith doesn't even make the cut. Oh man. All right, so we move into, we get the crux of Minerva's arc, where she makes it to her reality. She finds Zarkon, and I guess it's a reality where she's just recently died, I guess. But you know, she's still her, and then she comes back, and everyone welcomes her with open arms, and she goes to Lotor, and Lotor's like,
You're not
That was
my
kind of
mother.
heartbreaking because like she did
It was.
sacrifice everything for this moment, and then it did not play out the way she thought it would.
Throughout the whole moment, I was thinking, Minerva, keep it cool. You can win him over. Just be calm. Don't go crazy. Like, you just need
And she
some
went
time.
crazy.
And she went crazy.
And
then
what does he say? What does that say about their characters? Like, do you think that even time and reality will change these people? Like, because Lotor will always, like he said, he's always been saying, "You're not my mother. I don't think of you as my mother." Like, in his mind, his mother died at that point. So, does that speak about time and space and how everything is always connected, regardless of those barriers?
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I just thought like Lotor was like a smart kid or something. Like, I mean, because it's kind of stated multiple times that Lotor was kind of a genius, right? Like he was very talented at pretty much everything. So he probably was just like, yeah, dead people don't come back to life. Nope. He probably did some shady shit.
Time travel's not real.
Yeah.
I saw her die, like horribly.
Decapitation.
Wait,
father.
he didn't though.
Yeah. Well, maybe in that reality he did.
Then let's talk about where did Voltron go during this? Like that
Yeah, I
seemed
was
like an
wondering
extended
that.
period of time. Like because it's a tag like, oh, are they gonna make it or are they gonna be erased from reality? And then Keith gives a speech about, come on guys, let's believe. And then they do, and then it's like, oh, it's cliffhanger. Did they make it or not? And then Minerva has plenty of time to like be in that reality. Did like Voltron get lost or something?
I think they ran out of energy when they got to that reality, and then Keith had to give them another speech about how they're Voltron and can produce more energy, and then that's what happened. And so they finally got there. I actually have no idea because it's really weird that they just show up later.
And then it's like a huge surprise, like Voltron's alive. Like, you know, we all weren't expecting it. But at this point, they're like, oh no. Minerva's going to destroy all realities. And then we get into the finale, episode 13.
Really quick question, just to go back to what you asked, where was Voltron? Do you think they were watching? Because how do they know what's going on after that? Like, where is Minerva going now? Like, she just disappeared. If they didn't know that this reality didn't work out as well as she wanted.
They're just like, wait. Let's see how this plays out.
I mean, the alternative is they went into that reality and instantly start smashing shit, trying to find whoever it was without even trying to figure out the consequences of that current reality. So yeah, maybe they were just watching.
Yeah. And so now, episode 13, they have to find a way, the last episode of the whole series. They have to find a way to beat everything and tie everything up from the past 77 episodes. They do it shittily.
Yep. I wanted an epilogue, but not like this.
No.
Not like this. It's weird. So then she starts going to like destroying. I mean, I'm just reading like the plot description of this episode, and it's like it sounds stupid the way they beat her, because it's like she's eliminating all these realities from existence, and then after a desperate battle, they are able to stop her from destroying the last one. They work to convince her that while life is hard and rough, it is still gorgeous and vibrant. And then that's it. And then it's like Allura just says, "Hey, Minerva, don't be bad." And then Minerva's like, "Oh, you're right. I'm sorry."
Now let's go commit suicide together. Okay.
That whole thing, and that was weird too. Like, what were they doing? Like, why did first of all, the darkness in Allura doesn't get mentioned like at all, like about what this whole thing was being led to. Allura's just like, I gotta go save her, and then like, let's go save your son. Like, what? How? Like, explain to me the Altean magic behind this. Can anybody explain to me the Altean magic?
Like, what the fuck? Okay, so the dark entity that she has in her or whatever, like, because she mentions it and Minerva goes, "Oh, all that does is destroy," and then she goes, "But it can also create life. Your son taught me that." And then she goes, "Oh, well, then we'll have to kill ourselves because 2 lives will restore all of reality."
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. So Allura literally says, "I know what to do. Lotor has been showing me, Altean magic shit. I just need your help." It's like, when has Allura ever like restored a bunch of realities and done this shit? Like, how is she so confident that her and Minerva could join up together and accomplish this, and also that it's gonna kill her. Like she could have just ended time and space for good and killed herself and everybody else, and it would have just ended. Like, how does she know?
I mean, at this point, it's just space magic all around. Like I said, I turned my brain off when Voltron and the Atlas combined. It's just like, whatever.
Forget about it.
Big robots fighting each other. I mean, speaking of big robots, did you guys like that gigantic jet thing that appeared behind the Atlas Voltron?
That was the only cool thing it ever did. Only.
Yeah,
it wasn't
was cool.
even that cool.
Well, I thought it was awesome. It was like it was just a bigger version of everything, basically, that they did. Yeah, let's just do that, but make it bigger and more jets. I don't know, I'm into that stuff.
I want an abridged version of Voltron strictly for that final fight, because Atlas Voltron starts doing so much shit that Atlas Voltron should have been doing. Because it shoots lasers out of its eyes, and so I want an abridged version where it just pauses there, and Keith goes, "Allura?" She goes, "Yeah." "How long have you known that we have laser eyes?" She goes, "A while." "Well, that would have been very helpful the first time she stabbed us, you bitch."
And sapped all of our energies. Yeah, absolutely. Man, and then a tearful goodbye where the where she says goodbye to all of her teammates and especially Lance, the love of her life. I wish Scarecrow was there. That would have been awesome. What? Yeah, and then so she says goodbye to Lance, and then she gives him Altean markings.
How, Kobe? How?
Altean magic. Well, you
Space
see,
magic.
when the love is pure and you have a darkness inside of you, and it makes Lance Altean. Kinda. I guess. What do the marks mean? Is he a true Altean? I don't know.
Yeah, when she did that, I was just like, wait, what? That was my instant reaction to that, and
Yeah,
for such
we laughed at
such an intimate moment, I don't think that's like a good reaction that you want from your audience, to just kind of like pull that out, like, oh, suddenly she can make other people Altaians.
Apparently,
Yeah,
I guess.
it's the kiss. I guess the last kiss.
I don't know.
It's fun to see the theories that people are desperately trying to put together. There's one I read where you can feel the person's heart breaking because they loved Voltron so much, where they go, "I think Allura did it, and so Lance is now the bridge between humans and Alteans. I don't know why there needed to be a bridge between humans and Alteans, but I think Lance is that now. Maybe."
Oh God. Nope. That just sounds like a writer got drunk, just as the kiss sat, yeah, but let's just make Lance give him some marks. Deep. And then that's
The
it.
whole
It's kind of a
season.
big move from Allura too, because it's like every day now, Lance is gonna look in the mirror and be reminded that the love of his life is dead, and this is what she left him.
Well, it's like Sokka
just
looking
some
at the
markings.
moon. Oh, fuck.
That's rough, buddy. That's rough.
What happened to your first girlfriend? She became the universe. That's rough, buddy.
She gave me some cool markings though.
Yeah, so then we get the epilogue of Voltron, where we find out, everything that's happened. But the Galra Empire is saved, and who takes it over? It's does Aksha take it over, or does Keith's mom?
It's
I forgot.
Keith's mom.
It was
and
the guy who was the
Blades of
leader
Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
of Mamma Mia.
Oh yeah, they they created like a democracy type thing.
Yeah, they became the representatives, and then yeah, so there's now a galactic coalition, and everyone has representatives to this coalition. So
I did like how they kept that. That was a good Keith character moment. Where it's Keith was offered the role, he immediately
Yeah,
declined.
they offered you to be their leader, didn't they? He goes, "Yep."
Yeah. Okay, and then this was something that was creepy to us because I'm sure we didn't watch the old Voltron show. Maybe you know about. Do you know anything about Chip, the creepy robot?
Chip is a pilot of Vehicle Voltron or whatever.
Vehicle Voltron, please continue.
My brain just rolled its eyes.
It's you know how eventually the Power Rangers franchise got filled with just nonsense. It's basically it's Vehicle Voltron is like the Ninja Power Rangers, where it's the same thing but with a gimmick.
Okay.
All right.
They're
It's a
vehicles.
robot that's a pilot, huh?
But
Okay.
It makes no sense because Voltron's a radio vehicle. They're just
Yeah.
I will say the epilogue. I think when Shiro revealed that he married the dude on the bridge or whatever.
Curtis.
Curtis. At first, I was like, good for Shiro. He leaves the battle behind, gets some love in his life. But at the same time, it's a bit like, well, first of all, Keith's not even in that wedding photo. I don't think. It's like, damn. At least invite Keith to your wedding. At least let him be in that photo. But the other thing too is everyone else kind of had shit to do. Hunk had his culinary empire, and Keith had he's still working with the blades of Mamma Mia.
Yeah,
and it's
turned into a humanitarian relief organization.
Yeah, and Shiro, for all his talents, it's for his epilogue to just be reduced to a marriage. It's is that all you wanted him to do?
Better than him being a farmer.
Finally he's.
Yeah, but that was so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Shiro should have had a better send-off than that, but I don't know. I'm kind of split on that.
No, I agree. We all love Shiro. We wanted him to do something this season and at least give him something in the epilogue to do. And I mean, I know we all want him to be happy because, his other love interest died, but it's still...
And he's a consciousness of his former self in a clone body of his and has a really stupid robot arm.
Yeah, he barely has anything going on for him now. And I mean, just to reduce it to him showing, his love interest at the end, oh, good for him. It's just, no, I want to see him do something. I want to see him be old Shiro again.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he becomes a teacher at the academy or something like that. I don't know.
I kind of wanted a
that
joke.
That would have been cool, but
where it's Shiro finally got his biggest wish. He died.
Shiro built a colony of Shiro clones.
The Shiro clone rejected the Shiro mindset after all those battles, and he ended his life
nope.
Not peacefully.
Not peacefully. So violent, so messy. But one thing that I actually did not like about this finale is that they said they retire Voltron. That Voltron is no longer needed because there's peace throughout the galaxy. When I thought, because Voltron was more than just any one threat, Voltron's supposed to always be there. So I thought a more fitting ending. I mean, they could at least have passed it off to these discount paladins that they talked about and let them go off on adventures and do their own thing. Say that Voltron will always be around when needed. But it was weird that they were just trying to wrap everything up that now forever and ever in the history of forever there will be no more war and violence and Voltron is not needed.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I actually like that. I mean, it kind of... I know it's, unrealistic to expect that there'll be peace and love and happiness forever. But, I mean, it still leaves the window open for, Voltron returning. I mean, because, they've kind of hinted that Voltron is, kind of sentient. So it kind of knows, when to, save its pilot and that kind of thing. So I kind of like the idea that it just kind of fucks off and just all right, I ain't needing no more. See ya. And it drives home in that, this is a new era where Voltron is no longer needed and we have peace. I think it would have been weirder if they kept him around because it would have been because imagine it's this, it's the most powerful weapon in the universe, right? And you're trying to build this peaceful empire. It's whoever is on the side of Voltron is going to win in any conflict at any given time. So I think it's actually, I don't know, kind of a wise symbolic move. It's kind of mass dismantling of nuclear weapons or something like that. It's all right, Voltron, see you later. We don't need you. It's it proves that it is actually a peaceful era, that we don't need this giant weapon, because that's what it is. It's just a weapon. That's what it is.
It is, but only it's a weapon because there's only 5 humans as people on it. It would have been nice if they harken back to how the old Voltron was, where it's really took the main alien. I know there's a lot of alien races, but if every alien race was a part of Voltron. I mean, that stands for a unified galaxy.
Yeah, but only
in itself. I mean, Voltron's not just a weapon.
Only for those 5 races,
he's
though.
a symbol of peace.
Yeah, but the other thing, just to go on the point you just said, how before the paladins would train for generations or so, or a long time to work with the Voltron, get their paladins and their lions set up for them. But if Voltron only comes in times of need, they're going to be in a situation again where they're going to just find 5 random dudes who don't know what to do, have to spend time to learn when they're needed at most.
And apparently it works fine.
Yeah, but not every time.
I mean, there's only been 2 Voltrons as far as we know.
I mean, I don't think that as a weapon...
And the Voltron that practiced for years actually failed. And the Voltron that was randomly picked succeeded immensely.
Save the universe.
I guess that's true. But I don't see as Voltron as a weapon, because a lot of times they kept stressing that Voltron is a symbol of peace. Voltron is a symbol of, everyone wants to see Voltron because it gives them hope and, humanity of things are going to get better. So even if they just bring it out and do, like, how Karan did that whole episode where he would just have them go out and, like, do parades and stuff like that.
Yeah. But again, it's not really, like I said, they're partly sentient, so it's probably not even their decision whether or not to keep Voltron around. So I don't know, I like the idea that Voltron itself was just like, you know what, you don't need us anymore, we're going to go off when you next need us. But right now, it's not our time to stick around, even as a symbol of peace. Because, I mean, a real symbol of peace would be not a weapon, it would be like, I don't know, like a flag or something. I mean, it's only a symbol of hope and peace in a time of, like, desperation, when there's, I don't know, say an empire invading the rest of the universe or something like that. But in a time where you're actually trying to be diplomatic, I think the giant super weapon needs to stay off the table.
Okay, that's a good point. Jake, Voltron, keep around to rule the galaxy in a peaceful iron fist or dismantle forever?
I think it definitely needed to stick around. Like, again, maybe not for, like, the muscle, but just, like, a symbolic thing. Like, it then even kind of opens up a possibility. If this 8th season would have been a lot better, let's say it ends on Voltron sticking around, being symbolic of the Voltron Coalition, Galactic Coalition, or whatever they choose at the end, and they pass on the mantle of Paladin to, like, other people. Let's say you can make a new series, and you can almost make it that being a Paladin of Voltron is kind of, like, shitty, where you're like, oh man, I don't want to be a Paladin of Voltron. All you do is fly the lion around everywhere, and then a big bad shows up, and then you kind of have, like, a new thing, a cool, like, a cool dynamic.
Sequel series, a good sequel series.
But now with taking Voltron out of commission, it's like the writers going, we are never, ever, ever. We did it. We coming back to this. We did amazing. We did this all perfect.
We wrapped up everything.
Every question.
Everyone's gonna love it.
There is no need for us to do another thing ever because we're the best.
I know you guys.
And I mean, I agree with that.
We brought her back.
I with how terrible this last season was, I hope they never do another Voltron.
Oh yeah.
Pass it on to a new group of writers that have their own story. I don't want them to, these same people, to make a continuation where it's like, yes, last time in the last season of Voltron has been passed down to generations and blah blah blah. It's like, no, just make a new season. Just make it better than this one. I would say that doesn't need to be a spin-off of this one.
And ultimately, that's what the 8th season does, and that's what makes it the saddest to me, is that it brings down my whole idea of the show. Because, as we talked about before, I know, Jeff, you liked the first 2 seasons, but it's like, I really loved those last few seasons. I thought it was ramping up to something really great. And if it would have continued that momentum, man, I had faith that it did, that it was going to do that. That's the sad thing. I was, like, fully on board. It's like, everything's going to be awesome. And even when the season started off kind of bad, it's like, okay, it's going to need some time to get on track.
There was so much hope in your eyes.
There was so much hope, and I was just like, they needed this episode. They needed this episode to establish backstory. Now they're gonna go on to, like, the good stuff here, and then, like, then the full plot of the season came up. It's like, man, this isn't good. Like, they're not handling this in the correct way, and just like, it taints my whole legacy with the show. I mean, I still would like I still like those last few seasons and the show itself, but it's like everything is, like, brought down a notch by this season.
I agree. You can't judge a story on part of it. Like, you have to judge the whole story, and the ending does not help the series at all.
Yeah.
It weakens it. It cheapens a lot of moments, and it kind of just, like, makes the entire show a little lackluster. Mm-hmm. So you can't go up to a person and say, hey, watch the first 2 seasons of Voltron, maybe season 4 and 5, 6. And then watch season 6. And then they go, what about the rest? Oh, sorry. Also watch season 7. And we're like, what about seasons 3 and 8? Yeah, they're a thing. They're a thing. They're there. You don't have to watch them, though.
You mean the ending of the show?
Yeah, you don't have to watch the ending. It just ends with them saving Earth. And Minerva lives in space. The end.
You know, that really would have been a better ending. I would be singing the praise of the show if it just ended at season 7.
So
I mean, I feel like a better story structure would have been like, yeah, if season 7 was just the finale, I mean, that would have been perfect, right? Saving Earth, maybe
Saving Earth
maybe
should
don't
have been
kill.
the final thing. Yeah.
What if Zarkon was? I was talking to Tori about this. Like, okay, if I was like the lead writer and I had all well, obviously, hindsight is 2020 and all that stuff. But let's just say I had a Voltron fan fiction and it was basically just Voltron, but with some things mixed around. What I would have done is I would have probably kept Zarkon as the bad guy throughout the whole series. You know, he can die and then come back as robot Zarkon. Maybe Lotor comes around as like the good guy eventually or whatever, and then Zarkon is the final bad guy trying to invade Earth, and then Allura and Lotor get together. That would have been my Voltron fan fiction right there. I don't know why I just shared that just now. But anyways,
don't look up my fan fiction.
Fan fiction. Well, doesn't that? But that takes so. I mean, I like the idea of Zarkon at least maybe being a factor, but it was so important to Lotor's story to kill Zarkon and everything that happened with there, and having Lotor transition to a final villain would have been great. Even keeping Lotor around and making him more insane for like the final season and making him be the one who attacks Earth instead of Sendak, all would have been a better option than what we got in season 8.
Yeah, it really.
right.
What this season does is it makes it hard for me to recommend the show.
Yeah.
I can't tell someone in confidence now. Yeah, go watch the show. If the person had asked me like, I don't know, 3 or 4 seasons ago, I probably would have been like, yeah, I think you should watch it. It's pretty good. But now I would say there's probably better use of your time, knowing where the show ends up, and that's really, really disappointing.
I told somebody before I started season 8 to go watch it. I told her I would watch it with her from season 1 all the way to season 7. And then now I'm like, I'm not looking forward to watching this show again.
So, Tori, you're saying that you're questioning if the show is actually good or not?
Yeah. Because even though you just said ended at season 7, I actually didn't like season 7. Just gonna throw that out there.
I know you guys. I think I loved season 7. I loved it.
It just didn't give me enough of the characters. Like I don't really remember what they did. If it was anything like, and most of the time we focused on the side characters and what they were doing, and the other Earth people that didn't matter. And I'm like, I want to see my real characters in action. Like this whole thing, it's just boring and stuff that I don't care about. Characters I don't care about. I just want to see our legendary defenders defend Earth. And instead, most of the time they're just in the background. Like Karan says, like one thing. Like he only just gives directions.
The journey to Earth was definitely better than Earth
I was gonna
itself.
say, the ending of season 7 is okay. I still think I'm with Kobe. I love season 7, but it's cool because they lose the Castle of Lions at the end of season 6. So season 7 is their like that nomadish journey to Earth, and I thought that's such a different, interesting thing.
Yeah, overall, disappointed in where this show ended up. As Jake said, it's hard to recommend right now. We've talked about this for almost 2 hours now. Incredible. Anyone have any final things by putting Voltron to rest? Any last words you want to say about Voltron?
Rest in peace, Voltron.
Makes sense.
I mean, I guess seriously, I would say I think my expectations for the show were kind of frozen in time from when I first really enjoyed it, and it didn't really evolve over time. I never fully grasped that, maybe the show shouldn't have these expectations.
That was like me. Remember, that's how I started this. I said, made me question if this was even good.
Yeah, the burden that I put on the show was probably too much. I think maybe it was always just kind of this kind of show. Maybe it was always like a decent show. I mean, I don't know. Nonetheless, the fact that I'm questioning the quality of it at the end is disheartening, and I really wish it was a better finale. That's all I can say.
I'll say that for me, I thought Voltron was going to be more The Last Airbender, and in reality, it was more Legend of Korra. Where I just had a lot of expectations, and then it kind of just fizzled out into a point where it's kind of hard to say go watch it. Like Jeff said too, So yeah, I thought it was going to be something I will remember and always tell people about, but then it came into a thing where I go, oh yeah, that was a thing. I think I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, and then I'm going to think back years from now and just like, yeah, how many seasons was that? Oh, I watched 8 seasons of Voltron. Like, damn, like 78 episodes? Wow. I'm going to watch something else now, like, because it's disheartening and disappointing. But the bright side about it is that we could have had we had a really cool discussion about it. It was fun learning to hate the show. Not hate it. That's a strong word. To dislike this season even more so after talking about it. So thank you all very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thanks for having us, Kobe.
Yeah, thank you for introducing us.
It's so perfectly. And now I will help sign us off. But first, Jake, you come from a different channel. You want to plug yourself?
Absolutely. Said earlier, about 2 hours ago, I come from the YouTube channel Anime Dumpster Dive, where we go in depth on anime that have been considered bad. But on our latest podcast, we actually do something a little different, and we've been starting to watch good anime. And we finished A Place Further Than the Universe, which is a fantastic show that I highly recommend for everyone here to watch it. To cleanse your Voltron Season 8 palette, watch 12 episodes of A Place Further Than the Universe.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I realized I'm doing the sign off, so it's like I was like, okay, Jeff's gonna talk now. It's like I realized he's not gonna do that.
Would you like to sign us off, Kobe?
Sure, I would love to sign us off. You found this on Nerd Blaze. This was just a fun discussion for us to have. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We do a podcast called Anime Ricochet, where 2 dudes who know nothing about sports talk about sports anime. We do weekly anime reviews with all 3 of us, where we discuss a weekly anime. We just wrapped up Zombieland Saga. We'll be on our channel shortly. And then sometimes we go in depth into things we like to talk about, like Voltron. Yep. So that was Nerd Blaze. I was about to say once again I'm Kobe, but then that's going to lead to everyone saying their names, and I don't want to do that. So we'll just sign off. Well, you guys, it's been a pleasure flying with you.